One of the things that really bugs me about guitar is there's just not going to be enough time in life to put every good idea into practice. Sometimes I wish I were sitting in a studio for 6 months working on an album where I could flesh out one idea and hold it in my mind for weeks at a time, make a recording, end up with a song that highlights that idea, and then sort of flush it from my mind and move on. Because it feels like I can't hold all of these ideas at once and stay on top of each one. Although we just looked at a way in our last lesson to experience the Dorian and Phrygian scales and how to build them up using arpeggios, and you should take some time to master the modes from that framework and really get a handle on them before moving on to another idea. But I want to piggyback this one on top of it because it's a lot of fun for me as well. We'll do these in the key of G again just because it relates to where we were last time and it's a nice central key here. So early on what we learned was the key of G has an F sharp note. And then we learned how to use that shape to move around the neck, and we found out we could put it on the lowest string and play 1 octave of a major scale, again in this case the key of G. Extend it to cover the whole position. So that's the major scale in G. When we're using modal terms, that's the Ionian scale. We learned last time that if we move to the second note and play the same notes, we would have a mode called the A Dorian. Dorian is the second mode of the major scale. Phrygian is the third. I don't know if we've touched on all of these yet. The fourth is Lydian. The fifth, Mixolydian. The sixth is Aeolian, which you've encountered a lot. And Locrian is the 7, which we just discussed very briefly last time. We also learned that the pentatonic scale loses 2 of those notes. It eliminates the half steps from the major scale where we have whole step, half, whole step, whole step, half. It removes those half steps and creates augmented steps. So we get root, second, third, an augmented step to the 5th, a whole step to the 6th, and we eliminate the 7. So we have an augmented step back to the root again. We've encountered 5 different pentatonic shapes. If we started on E minor, we'd say this was scale number 1, the E minor pentatonic. In reference to E, if we start on scale number 2, we get a G major, which has eliminated that half step to C, and the half step created by the F sharp. C again, F sharp again. So Ionian has the C's and F sharps, the 4 and the 7. Pentatonic eliminates them. If we played scale number 2, again calling E minor the number 1, scale number 2 is the G major pentatonic. Scale number 3 would be played on this A note. It has that little post, that column of notes, 5 7s, the augmented shifts, which we worked on very recently in pentatonic scales. Scale 4 on the B has this minor third or augmented second to start it off. That's how you would play if you wanted to continue to move those exact same notes from G major pentatonic down the neck into the various different positions. They were always the same notes, G, A, B, D, and E, no matter where I started. G, A, B, D, E, G, A, B, D, E. Here's another G, G, A, B, D, E, G, A, B, D, E. But in our last lesson, what we found out was that we could actually use our chords, G and maybe A minor, to map the guitar neck a bit, and end up with kind of a spotty scale that gave us some pretty sweet sounding melodies. Then we did the same thing with the B minor. So we had these arpeggios. That would give us the notes in the key of G, filling back in the C and the F sharp, the A minor scale, the A minor chord, gives us that C, half a step above the B in the G pentatonic pyramid. The B chord gives us the F sharp. F sharp's being a half step away from the root, the G. So when we put those back in, we got our modes. What I liked about the idea, though, was that I wasn't just seeing the 7 notes of a mode and playing them up and down the neck. The reason I like to see that is because I tend to play in a very scalar manner. If I've got a scale, I'll probably play it. So you can probably really hear me walking up and down the scale. With those broken up arpeggios, I'm forced to sound a little bit more selective, like I'm leaping from note to note. And I just get a little bit of a different look and a different melody, kind of imposed on me. So now I want to take that very similar idea, but violate it somewhat. If we can say that this A minor arpeggio and the B minor arpeggio could work out to give us our modes, why not use a full pentatonic minor on each? As I've said before, the pentatonic is just a glorified arpeggio. The pentatonic minor is a minor arpeggio with 4s and flat 7s added in. So I could actually play not the appropriate A scale for this system of pentatonics, but an actual A minor pentatonic. With the G major pentatonic. That again introduces notes like C. This one wouldn't, because this was derived from the G major pentatonic. So again, I could have this kind of G chord idea. With A minor pent. Back into G. So there's your G major pentatonic, scale number 2, as seen before, with our little pyramid. Could get this B out of here for a second. If you looked at an A minor pentatonic overlaid, again, you could actually play this because you're playing an A minor chord. You can bring in your A minor pentatonic. It's not this scale, but it's an actual A minor pentatonic to kind of contrast against the G. You see, I've returned this B to C half step. I could come in and use some of this, overlapped in this, and make a hexatonic, but I want to show you something different first. If B is also a minor chord, and we said we could do a B minor arpeggio, I can actually play a B minor pentatonic in here as well. There's the B minor pentatonic with those notes of the A minor removed. So it's just a B minor pentatonic overlaid against that A minor that we had seen earlier. And now we get something really cool happening, where the A gives you the C note, which wasn't in a B minor pent, and the B gives you a B note, which wasn't in the A minor pent. We get all these little half steps filled in. Turns out we're right back in our modes. Right now I'm going to play it just as you see it. So once again, I'm going to treat them all as they're in the key of G. There's your G pentatonic with the pyramid. There's my A minor pent. You hear the different flavor because of that C note. And there's my B minor pent. That gives me an F sharp that G pent didn't have, but returns me back to the original key. It puts this B note into the A minor pentatonic that A minor didn't have, but it would have had if it was scale 3 or if I was playing the key of G. So I'd have a G, the A scale, and the B. Now I can move freely from A minor to the B minor. back. There's G, A, B. What I'm not doing at the moment is filling these in together. I'm playing specifically A minor pent and specifically B minor. So I'm just moving back and forth between the two. After you've done that for a while, you could say, well, let's encounter those half steps. Now you recognize this is actually B Phrygian, which is actually A minor Dorian. Notice the pure jigsawing of these. This is how I really came to know my modes, is when I drew these on my wall actually and saw them. There's an A Dorian over here and a B Phrygian over here. And I recognized that this little equator between them was like a hinge that jigsawed them together. When I saw that, the whole picture of modes came clear to me. So A Dorian has the same half step as B Phrygian, which it turns out is G Ionian. This is really handy for you to recognize. This little box here is found here. So I get 4, 5, 7, 4, 5, 7, and then here it is 7, 9, 11, 7, 9, 11. Those notes show up here as well. So there we get our complete version of our B Phrygian, which, as I said repeatedly last time, if I played actually in the key of B, this would be a minor scale that would sound Spanish. An A Dorian, which would sound like an A minor scale that sounds sort of medieval. But right now it's all G major, so they're just being used as shapes to accomplish the key of G major. Now that I found those notes, I could come and put them in here as well. There's the F sharp in this scale, and there's your F sharp, which could be a Locrian mode. So once again, I'm back to full scales. I need my C here, because you can see that little dice box again that we keep finding. So there's a C, there's a full G Ionian shape, a full A Dorian, and a full B Phrygian. And I'm right back where I was yesterday with all the modes created. This time though, just by the pure overlap of an A minor pentatonic and a B minor pentatonic. And I don't want to abandon that right now. There are times where I could play just the actual Ionian shape. So that was the A Dorian shape, playing as a G Ionian, some B Phrygian shape. But then there's still the pentatonic idea. G major pent. Oh, right away you can hear the change of notes when I switch to the A pentatonic version. Some of the notes are identical, some aren't. So here's B minor pentatonic. Here's the appropriate B scale in the key of G pentatonic. There it is again, scale 4 or scale 1 in B minor. A couple of different ideas I love to play in there just as a flash is I like to take these half steps that we found, and because now I can see them in a different location, I'll use them isolated. Or I can use, especially this column. I was going to say this the other day. Dorian is the only one where you see an uninterrupted spring of columns all the way down. So that's kind of useful. 5, 7, all the way down that scale. It's there because one side is from the B pentatonic and one side is from the A pentatonic. So I can play those boxes. Back and forth and zigzagging helps. There's one in G. There they are in the B again. That was just whole steps, and there are the halves. My ear likes them. So that's another way to build up your Dorian and your Phrygian. So then what we have here again is all the notes of the key of G, G, A, B, C, D, E, F sharp, G, and so on. If I start on G and focus on G, I've got Ionian. On A is Dorian. I'm using that shape to stay in the key, but I could go to an A Dorian song. In B, it's Phrygian, same thing. Those are all the notes of the key of G, so I just use this as an extension of G, or it could be a B Phrygian song. F sharp would be Locrian on here. So there's 4 of your 7. The Aeolian, the E minor, you already know. C and D are Lydian and Mixolydian. They're going to be the 2 majors. I can use the exact same concept with major pentatonics if I want, which I guess we'll do soon. Thanks a lot. Hopefully you can use that.